Trump's Fed showdown, a gift or a gamble for traders? Trump has just pulled off a move that stripped the Fed of its independence cloak. In an unprecedented step, he fired a sitting Federal Reserve governor this week, all in the name of lower interest rates. On August 25, Trump announced on social media that he was dismissing Fed Governor Lisa Cook, effective immediately. The move shocked financial markets, sparking waves of criticism. But here's the real question: will Trump's power play actually deliver what he wants? Will it really cut borrowing costs for the US government? Before we answer that, Ultima Markets needs to clear up one crucial distinction. When we talk about interest rates, there are actually two kinds. The first is the short-term rate, which the Fed directly sets. Think of it as the wholesale price of money between banks, the foundation of the financial system. That's the one Trump wants to bring down. But then there's the long-term rate, like the 10-year US Treasury yield. It may sound distant, but on Ultima Markets, you can trade 10-year US Treasury CFDs directly and get familiar with how it moves. Even if you've never traded it before, you need to know, it's absolutely critical. This long-term rate is like the retail price of money. It determines the cost of mortgages, car loans, and corporate borrowing worldwide. And here's the catch: this retail price isn't set by the Fed chair alone, it's determined by millions of investors around the world, every second of every day. What drives their decisions? Their expectations of the future. Now let's connect the dots. To global investors, what does Trump's pressure on the Fed signal? It says, the Fed's independence is crumbling. If monetary policy decisions are being dictated by the White House instead of economic data, then its credibility in fighting inflation comes into question. Investors start thinking, if the president forces the Fed to print money for short-term gains, won't inflation spiral out of control? The dollars I lend today will be worth far less in the future. So, what do? Simple. When lending money to the US government, by buying treasuries, they demand higher yields as risk compensation. And there you have it. Long-term rates, the retail price of money, go up, which creates a bitter irony. Trump pressures for lower rates, markets fear future inflation, investors demand higher long-term yields, mortgage and corporate borrowing costs rise instead of falling. And that's not all. Other time bombs are already ticking. Trump's tariff policies risk fueling inflation further, and Washington's ballooning deficits mean ever more borrowing, pushing yields higher still. By firing a Fed governor, Trump may have just thrown more fuel into an already overheated boiler. History has seen this movie before. Back in the 1970s, President Nixon pressured Fed Chair Arthur Burns into loosening policy. Burns caved, and the result was a decade of stagflation, soaring prices, stagnant growth, and widespread hardship. Since then, every Fed chair has lived with the warning, don't be the next Burns. Translation, never surrender to political pressure. So today, we're witnessing a high-stakes battle. On one side, Trump is trying to turn the Fed into his servant. On the other hand, the Fed is desperate to defend its independence and avoid repeating history. And in between, global markets, making their judgment in real time with real money. In the end, Trump's rate cut gamble may prove hollow. He might succeed in nudging down the short-term wholesale price, but by scaring off the world's retail buyers, he risks driving up the long-term rates that matter most to the economy, and to all of us. How this drama ends is anyone's guess. This is Ultima Markets, always giving you one step ahead. See you in the next update.